Okay, today we're going to take a look at the 1996 Trendmasters line of Battlestar Galactica figures. These were released along with two spaceships, which I have reviewed in another video. And you got four figures. There is a Cylon Centurion, as you can see here, a Gold Cylon, which is essentially the same version of the Cylon Centurion, Imperius Leader, which is the guy with the wings, and Starbuck. Let's take a look at each of these individually. The Cylon Centurion figure is actually quite nice. It's a little bit more beefy than the original sort of style of figures, and doesn't look that much like what was in the original TV show, but it is quite nice. It comes with a few sort of good features as well. The oversized weapon is quite nice, and it does actually fire missiles, which you don't often see in toys these days. As you can see, you can fire out. There's two buttons, I think. There you go, and both missiles fire out. It also has a sword sort of attached to the front of it that you can remove, and the figure can hold this separately, but it's quite nice to just leave this one in place. It also has light up eyes, so there's a small button on the chest here. If I press that, you can see his eyes light up. This is actually quite impressive because this figure is nearly 20 years old, and the battery is still working. I was quite pleased when I pulled this out of storage. The chrome on it is also very nice. It's very limited in articulation. You can rotate the arms up and down, and they also sort of spin side to side. The head does rotate a little bit, although it's fairly sort of stiff, and you can also rotate the legs up and down. The gold Cylon was exactly the same mould, just with gold plating rather than the sort of chrome plating. There was also an additional later release of this figure, which is a stealth Cylon. I only have a carded version of the stealth Cylon, and that's essentially the same Cylon figure but in black. So it doesn't have any chrome on it at all. This was a limited edition release, and I think only available in a few separate places, so is much harder to come by, and hence why I only have a carded version of it here. Overall though, these figures actually are pretty nice. They look, as Cylons always do, they look pretty mean and meaty, so quite nice things to get. Here we have the Imperius Leader. Now this is a bit of a strange figure, as it doesn't really look like Imperius Leader did in the original TV show. This guy has bird wings on his back, as you can see here. There are four wings. These are a little bit flimsy and do tend to fall off, so get quite annoying. He also has some of the Cylon's armour on his chest. He's got a removable face mask here. As you can see at the moment, he's got a sort of purple thing on him. If I take that off, you can see it's a sort of fairly lizard-looking face he has there. And it comes with a weapon, but because of the way his hands are moulded, the weapon is really flimsy and keeps falling out. It does fire missiles like the other toys do. As you can see there, they fire out quite nicely, but because he can't really hold it, it gets a little bit annoying. This figure looks like it should have some sort of effect in it. It's got the same buttonhole in the middle of it, but this one doesn't. It does appear though that this toy came in two versions, as this one came off a card, and recently I've picked up a boxed version of Imperius Leader, and this guy should have sounds. Now I've checked online, and it should be that if you press the button there, he should say destroy the Galactica. Unfortunately the batteries have actually run out of this toy, and I don't really want to open it, as I already have plenty of loose versions of these. So if you're going to collect sort of full sets of these, there are electronic versions as well, but it seems like the normal carded version didn't come with any electronics. It was just the box standard figure. And finally here we have Starbuck. Starbuck is probably the worst of the four figures. He's really posed in such an awkward way that it's almost impossible to stand up. As you can see, he's in a really strange pose. His arms don't bend much, so you can only keep him in this pose. There's no way of getting him out of it. His legs are really sort of at a jaunty angle, so he just is a bit of an annoying figure. He does come with quite a lot of features though, so again, for 96 you can sort of let this go. He comes with two overly large weapons here, both fire missiles. You've got this one, and then you've got another sort of gun here. The only problem being that he can only hold one gun at once, so he sort of looks a bit stupid if you leave that one in his hand. He comes with a removable helmet though, so you can take that off and see his features. He looks fairly pained there, like someone's beating him up, which is again not the greatest of faces, but it's okay, I suppose. There's also an additional mouth sort of a microphone thing piece here that clips into a hole on the side of his head, so if you take the helmet off you can have the mouthpiece in place, but with the helmet on you just have to have that as a spare weapon. He also comes with a sword. Again, there's a holster on the side of his leg here, and you can take the sword out. This is a fairly cheap thing. As you can see, it's bowed and bent. It's the very cheap plastic, but if you know, it's just another gimmick to add to the toy. Overall though, I do think this is probably the worst figure of the set. It's a shame it looks so naff, but that's figures of the 90s for you. Overall, this is not the greatest set of toys, as they're so heavily stylised. From the sounds of it, these were based on some comic books that came out at the time. It would have been nicer if they'd actually just done sort of more modern versions of the original Cylon figures. But again, in '96, if you look at the Star Wars figures at the time, everything was very muscular, so this sort of fits with the stars of the time. They still look pretty good on display. If you get sort of 4 of them like this, they're quite large figures, over sort of 6 inches tall, so they are quite imposing in a collection. But not the best things to get. If you're a die-hard Battlestar Galactica fan, then you'll probably want them, or you probably already have them, but if you're not, I wouldn't really bother picking them up, as they don't really sort of stand the test of time. Anyway, hope that's been interesting, and thanks for watching.